everyone, and welcome to Session 3 of the Global Black Feminist Reading Circle. My name is Randy Henderson, and I am one of the Black Feminist Reading Circle members of this online group. This session runs from January 20th until June 2nd and includes 2 week-long breaks. Our democratically selected reading material is Harriet A. Washington's book, Medical Apartheid, The Dark History of Medical Experimentation on Black Americans from Colonial Times to the Present. Our book group meets each Tuesday evening from 6:30 to 8 on the Google Plus Hangouts on Air platform. You may find the Global Black Feminist Reader Circle on Google Plus, YouTube, and Facebook, and always feel free to join us in reading our story together.
I am Joel Jones from Charleston, South Carolina. I'm your moderator for this afternoon. Welcome to the Global Black Feminist Reading Circle. Today is March the 3rd, 2015. Today we will be covering Chapter 5, The Restless Dead, Anatomical Dissection and Display. At this time, we would like to go around the Google Earth here, and would like everyone to introduce themselves.
My name is Georgette Moses. I'm participating from Columbia, South Carolina this evening, and I look forward to our usual deep discussions about this chapter and book.
And we just had a new person. I think she's muted though. Came on Purify Love. My name's Michelle Odom. I am in Brooklyn, along with Randy Danielle. I'm one of the co-hosts of the Global Black Feminist Reading Circle. We are in session 3, which runs through June 9th of this year, reading Medical Apartheid, The Dark History of Medical Experimentation on Black Americans from Colonial Times to the Present. You can look for us on Google Plus or YouTube or Facebook to learn more about us or to join our community on Google Plus to get updated on everything that's happening and find links to get into the conversation. So welcome, and I'm happy to be here. Wasn't sure I was gonna make it tonight, Joelle.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Kim, and this is my daughter, Johnny.
Hi.
Hi.
She just came in. I'm Brandon, and I'm in Brooklyn also. And I guess that's it for me. I'm enjoying reading the book. I don't know if you'd call it enjoying, but
Right.
Back to you, Joelle.
Okay, thank you. The chapter illustrates the horrors of a medical apartheid. The author, Harriet A. Washington, gives several accounts of the roles of individuals, institutions, and government policies that allow the degradation of African Americans across the country. Reading the excerpt, no place in the United States offers a great opportunities for acquisitions of anatomical knowledge, subjects being obtained from among the colored population in significant numbers for every purpose, and proper dissection carried on without offending any individuals in our community. This was advertisement for the South Carolina Medical College, which is MUSC down here in Charleston. The above advertisement signifies the attitude of society at that particular time. However, as you read through this chapter, the dates are not as distant in the past as one may think. Today, 29 states have what is called presumed consent statutes, which allow the coroner to harvest organs of individuals without prior permission. In 1997, the Los Angeles coroner office was found to have sold more than 500 pairs of coronaries to a year to an eye and tissue office transplant bank. 80% were from blacks and Latinos whose coronaries had fetched a profit of 1,000%. After reading this chapter and book, I have a better understanding why African Americans, the poor and underserved citizens in our community, have distrust for the medical corporation. I also look at every university that has a medical school and wonder what atrocities happen there. And that's what I do now. As we go further into the reading, we're going to see that if you got a medical university, you know, around us, or whatever happened and whatever medical advances, it was done with our bodies,
Right,
dead or alive.
right.
In closing, I rarely make comparison between tragedies that befall different peoples. However, I cannot help but think of all the atrocities that we as a people have suffered in this country. When you talk about slavery, you have to realize that it is just one aspect of suffering endured by the African American people in this country. The entire spin-off of slavery, of the slavery institution, gave privileged whites the ability to do with us what they chose. There were crimes committed, people were murdered, women were raped, and no one paid for the crimes. During World War II, the Nazis had 4 years to experiment with people of Jewish descent. In the American Nazi system, this went on for well over a century. How can we as a country begin to heal if we don't even want to tell the story? Do you think there's a difference between the Nazi death camps and the American medical apartheid? Would you consider one system more humane than the other? Why or why not? Should American medical universities be taken to the United Nations for crimes against humanity? Anybody? I know I went there, but hey.
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Excellent. I don't know. I mean, I think that abuse is abuse, and that it's not a good idea to get into comparing suffering. I think that, a number of people, I know that a number of people have received reparations for different things that have happened to their ethnic group or whatever, and that reparations is an issue that we ought to be taking very seriously. It's been around, the idea has been around for a long time, and there are a few people that have championed it mightily, but it's something that, an idea that really needs to become widespread and fought for tooth and nail to the death, because we deserve it. And if we can look at other people that have been wronged and see them, you're talking about the Nazis the Jews who experienced such horrific things, but just the Japanese who were interned here in the United States during WW2, they got reparations. You know, and from what I can hear, they didn't go through half of what blacks or Jews have been through. And, you know, and so we deserve reparations. We need reparations. And the medical abuses are just one aspect. You know, I mean, that's the other thing. That's just one aspect of 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 why we are due. And so, you know, America can't ever really move to a peaceful place or a sane place until it begins to grapple with these ugly truths that come out of our past, but extend in a large way to our present. Um, so, you know, I don't know how we're going to get about the healing, Joelle, but I know that until we do, we are trapped in these vicious cycles, you know, that keep people in fear. The fear leads to the whole need for security and uh, you know, policing and all of this expense that we have to go through because we're trying to maintain this psychological barrier between the truth, you know, and what we believe. You know, when we start to look at the truth, it will change what we know as well as what we believe.
Kim?
I like the last question in terms of, you know, the UN and crimes against humanity. I think that unless there's a consequence, it will happen again. And I feel now that we're starting in our own Holocaust right now. It really feels like I went to a workshop on Saturday, and they talked about how black wealth has dropped so low. Black wealth has dropped so low that on average, an African American has about $4,900 worth of wealth. So if you take the richest black African American and the poorest, and you level it all out, it comes to about $5,000. And then if you look at other races, especially you know, Europeans, whites, all of that, and it comes to over $100,000 per person, and that number, the 5,000 for us, is going down. So I think that there's so many ways that people are looking at how to squeeze the margins out of us. You know, squeeze, and I don't know if we'll be able to climb back out.
Right.
And so I think that there needs to be some consequence for some of what has happened. And I strongly feel that we have to start to put the onus, the solutions on ourselves. To say, okay, well, how do we then keep our own wealth? And why don't we make this a scorecard so that next year black wealth will be at 6,000, and then the following year 10,000. It's for me. It's just got to be something where we take all of this information and say, how do we come together as a group and change this? Because you can't wait for other people to change it. Like the last book we were reading, we're the people we've been waiting for. And that's why I love this particular group right here, because I'm just learning and talking about things that I just never thought about.
Georgette?
Wow. Kim and Michelle said so much stuff that got me thinking. So I'm going to start with the Nazi death camp thing and the reparations. And I first heard about, you know, the Nazi death camps. And then I discovered a documentary about what the Koreans did to their Chinese prisoners, which was very similar to what the Nazis did. And then I learned that the Americans used information from both of those people, those scientists, here in America, still using that information. So I have to think it's some sort of, you know, mentality where you have complete control over people. You don't want to release it. You'll give them some little, you know, small tokens like the president was able to, you know, to give reparations to the Japanese, and then to I believe the American Indians, he gave them something. But there was so much that's been done to us. Nobody wants to talk about it. And when they do, it's just, you know, cursory, you know, just there's a couple of blurbs in a rewritten history book, and you shouldn't talk about it. And then they'll bring up somebody, you know, some old guy who was born on the plantation to say, "Oh, it was good," but it wasn't. And then nothing after that was good either. And so, and on Michelle's point, I would like to know what those Japanese people did, whoever it was that spearheaded that movement to get them their reparations. And then those, you know, Native Americans, I don't want to call them American Indians, Native Americans, what did they do? And we
Right.
need, you know, our people who are trying to get that, you know, movement going, to connect with those guys and see, what did you do that worked?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times online I see, you know, different groups and they're talking about, you know, reparations for us, and then there's always a linkage. There's always a negative linkage from the black nationalists, and I don't know if these are trolls or whatever, but they try to turn it into something negative, you know, when why don't we deserve, you know, something for this? You know, when no one's trying, you know, if you don't want to accept any blame because, you know, you don't feel you were responsible, fine, but we deserve some acknowledgement of what was done, you know, and I don't know if we'll ever get that if they keep dividing us, you know, between those people who are on the extremes of each side, and then we don't get to that point where, okay, this is good for everybody. We can meet together, you know, on these terms and get something. You know, it doesn't have to be, you know, billions of dollars, although we know it is, because there are a bunch of rich families right now still reaping the rewards of all of that. But just the acknowledgement would do so much for our psyche to help healing not only us but the rest of the nation. And then um, oh boy, I lost my train of thought. Shoot. Um, Oh, to Kim's point about the financial, you know, degradation of what's happened to us, we spend so much money because we've been trained to, you know, physical stuff is our gratification for what's lacking everywhere else. They take everything else from us. So okay, I'll buy this, and you know, my exterior is what will make me feel good on the inside, but it's not. And then I don't do the things that help me build for my family's future and for my own future.
Mm-hmm.
And they've taken, you know, financial training out of the school system, so kids, you know, they don't know anything about balancing a checkbook, much less when I was a kid. In kindergarten, they took us, you know, to the local bank, and we opened a savings account. Do they do that today in school? You know,
I think so.
so parents and groups, social groups, you know, maybe you're going to have to get a hold of our kids and start doing those things that did work and retraining, you know, our young people and ourselves, you know, to keep that wealth in the community and make it work. How many times does it recycle through other communities before they release it? You know, we have to pay attention to what works for other people and make it work for us. Because if we ignore it, it'll never get better.
Um, um, just one point. What I think Kim said, you know, the thing with the UN is putting the entire country on notice that, I mean, the entire world says, okay, you did this, America, the beacon of democracy and all fairness. This is part of your path. You understand what I'm saying? And to, you know, cause a lot of times we want to, or we are very hypocritical when it comes to look what they done. Look how bad they did. Look at their kangaroo courts. Well, you know what? We got kangaroo courts. You know, we got laws that don't mean anything. You know what I mean? We have oppressed people, whether it be, you know, I read somewhere where as many as 120 million Indians were genocide to conquer this land. 200 million in the entire Americas were genocide. These are crimes, you know,
Yeah,
but
the problem though is, I mean, it's always a good idea to
mhm,
take issues to the
mhm,
United Nations,
yeah.
and they can help to expose problems, but in a lot of ways they don't have any real teeth.
Oh,
Um,
I know they don't. I know they don't have teeth. I mean,
yeah,
I work with those people, but I think, you know, my point with that is, yeah, I think things have to be in the civil court as well. You know, yes, real reparations have to happen. You know, but I think half of the point I'm trying to make is, how about, you know, the beginning of something is to say, I recognize it and I'm sorry. You know what I mean? You know, and then to
right.
follow
Well, you
up
know,
with, go ahead.
the back in the early 80s, I was working with some lawyers that did a lot of the celebrated political trials of the era, Lennox Hines, Hope Stevens, and they, National Conference of Black Lawyers, and they brought a case to the United Nations around political prisoners and human rights abuses in the country. And then recently, when I was working with Black Women's Blueprint, they took a case, which I helped to write, to the United Nations in Geneva, mostly dealing with abuses toward Black women. And it's all good, but you know, to get down to really solving the problem, you know, we have to do it within the country.
Mhm.
The United Nations can highlight an issue. It can bring some pressure, but you know, it can't force anybody to do anything without waging war on them. And since the United States runs the Security Council, the only people that are having war, you know, waged on them by the United Nations are doing so with U.S. approval. So that's not going to happen. But Congressman John Conyers has had a bill that he has introduced probably, what, 40, 50 years now in Congress, H.R. 40, around reparations. And he's not asking for money. He's just asking for a process to to start reviewing the history. Because as step one, you know, first people have to come to a point where they understand why we deserve the reparations. And he hasn't been able to get that bill off the ground. And so, you know, so we have to be pushing our own Congress people to support that kind of thing. You know, as just one avenue. I mean, I think there are many avenues. I think what we're doing here with the reading group is an avenue to helping to enlighten people. Because as long as um, people are running from the truth, and you know, as you talked about, Joel, the whitewashing of history, and that's going on at this point all over the country, where history books are literally being rewritten, where books are being banned. You know, people are just not trying to hear the truth, but that's where we have to get.